Hey peeps, welcome back to this week's episode of Sorority Chat. I'm flying solo again. I have talked a lot about timeline of projects and what kind of timeline makes your project successful, the benchmarks you should be trying to meet. And that's because timeline is one of the two major concerns or barriers that I hear from our clients. And so I'm trying to offer some more education on that so people can be prepared to execute their project in a timely manner and that will help them get accomplished what they want. So I said that was one of two barriers. The second is budget. Everybody's always trying to squeeze as much as they can into their budget, stretch the dollars as far as they can, understandably. So let's talk a little bit about that today. What does stretching the budget look like? What are some ways you can get areas of impact that it doesn't necessarily mean that you're spending a ton more? So I have some ideas and I'm going to share those with you. My first thought is creating focal walls, accent walls, an area of impact visually with wallpaper or with paint. Think foyers, a wall in the study room, maybe it's the fireplace in the living room, maybe it's some built-ins, maybe it's wallpaper on the ceiling in the dining room. What are some interesting ways that you can bring in color, pattern, texture, and create a wow moment for the house? Some of my favorite things to do are to use a bold, large-scale pattern, fun-colored wallpaper, whether that's the entire foyer or if it's just the main wall, depending on how your foyer is laid out, that may or may not be feasible. I mentioned the fireplace in a living room, sometimes that has built-ins. Is there a cool color we could use? I've coated some fireplaces in navy and it looks awesome. It really stands out. It just makes it pop against the rest of the room. Of course, there was navy in the rest of the room, so it all tied in. I've done wallpaper on ceilings and it looks great. Wallpaper behind the vanities in the group restrooms to add a little bit of texture, a little bit of color that tied in with some color that was in the tile in the showers. There are ways to create those moments of impact. Paint is obviously less expensive than wallpaper, but wallpaper gives you an opportunity to bring in pattern and a little bit more movement. And what's really fun with the wallpaper is when it can be a little more custom to the organization. So when it has the specific colors of the organization or maybe some of the symbols and emblems in it, I always think that's really fun. So think about your chapter facility. Where are some spaces or walls that make sense? Like where could you do something that accents? And the way that this saves you money is because rather than wallpapering an entire living room or painting an entire living room over again, you are working on just one section of that. And so that takes a fraction of both the materials and the labor to get that done. And in the age of Instagram and TikTok and everything that, goes out online, those focal walls and impactful moments create a photographable moment. So it's a great backdrop for a selfie or a group picture for members, and it shows up really well online, which is a key for their photos. So that's another factor for you to think about. Another thing you can do is focus on where could you get some customization within the facility. Maybe it is a walk-off mat in the entry that has the Greek letters on it, or the motto of your organization and it's customized on there, a commercial mat. We do this a lot with crests, Greek letters, mottos, all of it. And it's always a fun way to bring in branding, but in a very practical manner. It doesn't take a lot of money to get those mats made. And because they're commercial grade, they hold up very well. They offer a purpose, they're cleanable. But then when they have lived their full life and they're no longer, worth keeping, they're worn out, it's inexpensive again to change it out. It's not like you're putting a tile inlay in the floor of this, which would be a big investment and would make it more of a permanent fixture. This is a relatively low cost, replaceable item. It doesn't have to live there forever. So that's one customization tool that I use a lot. Another one is embroidered pillows. All the same concept, right? And is it a crest? Is it the Greek letters? Is it a motto? And it doesn't even have to always be embroidered. It could also be screen printed on the fabric. But pillows are a really fun way to customize things. I've even taken graphics that are in the brand guide for different client organizations, and we've had fabric made to match that and created pillows in that way. And that isn't such an obvious way to get the brand in there, but it's just kind of fun, and it's all custom, and it really makes things nice, and it feels personal to the members. It's impressive when P&Ms walk in and they see that branding. It's kind of like in your own personal home if you have monogrammed pillows or your zip code or your area code on pillows, it makes it belong to you. It makes it feel like home. And so that's just a fun way to have that customization done. Another customization item that we have used a lot is etched mirrors. We've seen crests, again, the full organization name, Greek letters. There's a lot of fun things that you can do with etched mirrors, and it looks so elegant and so classy in a woman's facility. You can get them different sizes, shapes, framed in different ways. I really love that one. I think it's really sharp, and it's timeless too in its approach. And again, you can always use mirrors, right? The women want to check their hair coming in and out that front door, do a fit check, whatever. It helps reflect light. That it helps rooms feel bigger. So a mirror can never do you wrong. And customizing it is a fun thing that you can do. Some other things that you want to think about is if you're in a small facility or a particular room, you're really just trying to maximize the use that you get out of it. What are some ways that your furniture could pull double duty? Maybe it's an ottoman that offers storage, or we've had some instances where like a small meeting room can also become a guest room in a facility. And so a big chair and a half might roll out to have a pull-out bed in it. That's not one that happens a lot, but it's just another example of how your furniture can do double duty. You want to make sure that the spaces meet all of the needs of the students and can get maximum use. And this isn't really furniture pulling double duty, but it's a way to get maximum use. If you have a dining room that is also your chapter room in the facility, we get a lot of requests for tables that could be moved out of the way so that the dining chairs and some additional folding chairs can be brought in, and that is what members can sit on for the chapter meeting. So we use a lot of flip top tables. They just have that flip top capability, and they can wheel out of the way so they all kind of stack back flat against each other. And instead of having houseboys or chapter members flip big heavy wooden dining tables on top of each other, this is lightweight, it has an easy mechanism, it's safer, it's much quicker and easier to be moved. And you could set up for chapter, and then everything gets set right back up for meals as well. So what are some other things that you need as far as like pulling double duty? I'm trying to think of some other ways that your furniture can do a lot for you. My team and I like doing console tables with stools underneath them. And sometimes that means the stools are high enough that you can sit at the console and either study, eat, watch TV if there's a TV in the room, just kind of use that space. Or they could just be more decorative consoles with shorter stools underneath them, and then those stools could be moved out and provide additional seating if there is if there's a TV room where you're trying to have a movie night, or you're having an exec meeting or any kind of meeting in that space and you just need to pull those out into the room and use that for seating. Those are all some examples that come to mind of ways that you can make the furniture work for you, and it doesn't require completely resetting a space, and it can really meet all levels of functionality. It is essential that products in these sorority environments are very durable and easy to maintain. So we are specifying a lot of commercial and education grade products with a mix of high-end durable residential pieces as well. And depending on what the budget is that we might be working with, it will depend on how we allocate those funds and where we put things. And I've kind of talked about that a little bit before on the podcast, but just keep that in mind that that helps you stretch your dollars as well. Investing on the front end in good quality, well-made pieces will allow those pieces to live longer. And then you're not constantly having to turn over the product, buy new pieces, and start again and again. So that stretches the money on a longer term scale. The other thing to think about is instead of going super trendy with everything, staying somewhat classic and timeless and then choosing your moments of trendiness. That will also help you stretch your budget. So the areas I talked about of like getting impact, customizing things like pillows, wallpaper, accent paint, all of those things, again, are relatively inexpensive to swap out. So if they go kind of trendy and that trend dies out in 2 to 5 years, you can change that out much easier than committing to it in whole big ways. Putting a funky pattern that's very on trend on some pillows is much less expensive than doing the whole sofa in it and then being stuck with that or having to recover the whole sofa. And I kind of said the same thing earlier about the wallpaper and the paint. Instead of doing a whole room, if you do one area of focus, it feels much more impactful and it doesn't hit your wallet as hard when it's time to change that out. And the timeless versus trendy is a big discussion that clients come to us with a lot. It's easy to want to fall into whatever the latest design trend is. Sometimes the chapter women, being the age range that they're in, really want to dive into a trend, and alumni are like, no, we can't do that. We have to be, tried and true. And there's some middle ground there. There's some ways to kind of appease everybody in different solutions and kind of mix it all together. It may not be full trendy, but we'll get those moments, and it may not be all classic, but we'll make sure that that is definitely we're in keeping with that so that the budget and kind of the refresh schedule isn't pushed to do it any quicker because you went too trendy. I'd love to know from you, like, what are some of the ways that you have updated your chapter house that have been areas of impact that helped you stretch the budget? I say this cautiously. One thing that's coming to mind right now is sometimes when there is just small areas that need to be painted, it's kind of fun to do like a painting party with alumni. And, as long as you've got people with a steady hand and who do a good job, because that can save you in relatively expensive labor. But that's not something to undertake if your house is large or you don't have folks who are comfortable painting on the house core board. So again, take that with a grain of salt. Apply it only if it really works for you and your project. But you can kind of apply that same thinking to other projects within the house too. What are some ways that you could stretch the dollar by maybe offering up labor yourself or, of a family member or significant other. So like I was saying, I would love to hear from you guys in the comments. What are some interesting ways that you have stretched the budget in your chapter facility? Any kind of interesting customization you've done, bold, photographable, impactful moments? I'm here for it all. I want to know what everybody's up to. And as always, I ask that if you like what you hear in this episode, please share it with someone. Please leave a review, and I will see you back here next week.